Hi, my name's Ann Perry, and I, along with Missy Staples and Louis Sapperman, get to tell you the story of how we came to be sitting here. Our journey from Raritan Valley Community College to 123 East Cliff is a story of faith, vision, and persistence. We'll share it with you in 3 parts. Louis is going to tell you how it all got started. I'm going to tell you how it came together, and Missy will tell you about the accessibility work that we've done in the last 4 years.
It was a spring day, much like today. Beautiful. It was at coffee hour shortly after our Sunday service. We had recently concluded our annual campaign, which did okay. Not great. Nonetheless, in that moment, with the whir and bright lights of the Coke machine and snack machines nearby, in the cafeteria at Raritan Valley Community College, where we once rented space for our Sunday services, I was approached by some of the church leadership. Some are still in the room today. The message was clear. We may not be able to afford to build a beautiful new church building, but we cannot afford for the long-term health of this congregation to meet in a cafeteria. We needed a committee that will be dedicated to exploring our short, medium, and long-term housing options. And so, in honoring our great UU tradition, a committee was born. One of our first orders of business was to create an identity for this new committee. There were a handful of people at the first meeting, and we all agreed that building committee did not feel very visionary. We went around, and ultimately we all agreed on Residents of Our Future, or Roof Committee. And we believe this described in broad, sweeping strokes what we were trying to do and where we were going. To be sure, the word residence was always a bit confusing to us, and we were not sure what it would take and where we would be. We took the congregation through visioning sessions to understand what we all really wanted in a new home. We studied our options: buying land, buying a building, long-term leasing and rentals. We started going to properties all over the area. One of my most vivid memories was standing on a farm overlooking Route 202 at Hollandbrook Road. I felt like Julie Andrews in The Sound of Music singing over the Alps. It felt like the perfect place to build our new home. Unfortunately, it was about then we realized that building our own church would cost us $2.5 to $3.5 million at a minimum. We brought in a couple of experts from the UUA to help determine what we could realistically afford, and it was nowhere near what we needed. Nonetheless, as we continued to plan for what we could afford, we always continued to hold on to a concept we had discussed at our very first meeting: serendipity. An unexpected opportunity that allows us to fulfill our dream of everything under one roof, despite the odds being clearly against us. We vowed from that moment to be ready if serendipity ever happened to come our way.
So 11 years ago, in February of 2004, after 8 years in rented space at the Raritan Valley Community College, our membership had grown to about where it is today. And during that time, we had watched the land values in Somerset County nearly double. If we were ever going to have a home of our own, we needed to turn our dreams into action. The process that we used involved 3 parts. Number 1, we had to raise some money. Number 2, we had to review potential properties. And number 3, we had to develop a process to make the offer. The theme for our work was called Step by Step. The first step was to raise enough capital to allow us to demonstrate to both ourselves and to others that we were serious about wanting to proceed. The money was raised by approaching selected congregants at a series of small gatherings, and $100,000 was raised. That was enough that we could make a down payment if the right property came along. Over the next 3 years, the roof committee met every month. We searched properties across Somerset County for a suitable home. Some of the properties that we looked at, you may remember, included 4 acres in Reddington Township, Frank's Nursery on 202, a lumber yard on 206, and a machine shop at exit 12 at 287. When we didn't have properties to look at, we talked through what would we do if the right one came along. How would we get the board and congregational approval done quickly? How could we get a mortgage? How could we run the capital campaign? How much money could we realistically raise? In the fall of 2007, the mansion at 165 Mountain Avenue in Somerville came on the market. The house was in need of repair, but it was so spectacular that we set off to see if we could buy it. We put all of our practice processes to work, and we engaged the congregation in our selection. A capital campaign was put together quickly. We raised $875,000 in pledges. Although we did not end up being the successful bidder, and today I'm sure the mayor will tell you it doesn't exist anymore, but we learned a lot through that experience. And many people continued to give against their pledges, and by the end of 2009, we had $420,000 that we had put together for this serendipity. So the team at this point had just about given up on the concept of finding one building that would do it all for us. So we changed our focus and said, we're going to find a large house that we can use for meetings and offices during the week, and we'll continue to meet at RVCC on Sunday. And so we looked at a lot of houses, and we selected the yellow house behind the Bridgewater Library. And we were in the process of meeting to put together that offer when we got a phone call from the same Mountain Avenue real estate agent that we had worked with before. And he said, "Are you guys still interested in the church? The Christian Scientists are going to put theirs on the market tomorrow." Serendipity. The team left the meeting, and we toured what was then the Christian Scientist Church, and our focus shifted to buying this building. The building wasn't perfect, it was far from it, but was so much better than anything else we had seen. I remember sitting in a hotel room on a business trip searching for guidance, and I sent out an email to a number of congregants. And to my thrill, I got 2 phone calls within minutes from people saying, "Buy it, buy it, buy it, buy it." So that gave me the reassurance to move forward. The building was expected to cost $875,000, including the needed repairs. And then we thought we'd need an additional $270,000-ish to make the building handicap accessible. This money was to come from capital fundraising, grants, and mortgage. The money, on November 15th, 2009, a special meeting was held to vote to approve the recommendations of ROOF, including an ADA compliance strategy, which allowed us to move in, delay the dedication, and complete the ADA compliance as we lived here. We also voted to accept the UUA and Chalice Lighter funding, which required ADA compliance. 7 months later, over 6 years after we did the fast approach, On June 15th, 2010, our congregation purchased this building and moved in. Our first services were held September 12th, 2010. Now, Missy's going to share our journey for the last 4 years.
So as a measure of our commitment to accessibility, even before we closed on the building, our congregation's resident architect, Don Barry, who couldn't be here today, put together drawings for making the building handicap accessible. Don's drawings, which I looked at over the weekend, from November of 2009, look remarkably like what we have today. So we quickly had a concept and needed to find the right professionals to implement the plan after we bought the building. But first, we needed a new committee. Roof had completed its mission, and the Access Committee was formed to meet the new mission of building accessibility. Finding an attorney for the building accessibility project was straightforward. Ernie Renda came highly recommended from various Somerville contacts that we had. Ernie, in turn, recommended John Silo as our professional engineer and surveyor. I had hoped John might be here today, but it looks like he didn't make it. John was our professional engineer and surveyor. It took a little bit longer for us to find the right architect and builder, but John eventually pointed us in the right direction. That right direction turned out to be Jim Matarazzo of VJM Architecture and Mike Picone of South Branch Investment Company. Jim turned Don's concept drawings into sealed plans to file with the Borough of Somerville. John Silo provided the site plan and connected us with a professional planner. And Ernie successfully presented the plans and drawings to the Somerville Board of Adjustment for site plan approval. Of course, you don't have much of a building without a builder. Mike Picone worked closely with Jim, John, and the congregation's Access Committee to develop plans that were in keeping with our budget. Once we had secured our approvals, Mike got building permits, and work started at the beginning of last October. Over the last 7 months, we've survived a few surprises about how the building was originally built, often happens with construction, dealt with wicked winter weather, and lived through the usual ebb and flow of a construction project. We are thrilled to have installation of the elevator complete and awaiting state inspection, because after all, the elevator was what we were after, and we are 99% there. The new space is lovely. It is both the end of a long journey and the beginning of what we hope will be many opportunities to invite people of all abilities into our building. We applaud and are grateful for the countless hours that our congregants put into making this day possible. In addition, we applaud and express our deep gratitude for the financial gifts that made the purchase and renovation of this building possible. That generosity enabled this congregation to fulfill its dream of having an accessible physical home in Somerset County. Today, we unveil the tangible symbol of our gratitude, the donor recognition wall on the landing of the front stairwell. When you see it on your way down to the reception, please take a moment to pause to acknowledge the financial generosity of the many people whose contributions brought us to this place.